Can a bring a trailer buyer sue a seller? So I received a very interesting bit of information today. Not today, yesterday. Recently on Bring a Trailer, there was a 1956 300C Adenauer that was sold. The car came out of Venezuela. It was used as a diplomatic car. And it was a non-running, non-functional, non-usable car that was sold on Bring a Trailer, and it sold for over $50,000, which to me just sounds absurd. A friend of mine who has a shop actually got to see the car and tried to get the car running and observed that the wiring harness had, well, to put it lightly, incinerated itself, and that there were items like a back window that was held in with RTV and part of a rope seal that was left over, but mostly RTV. The car hadn't run forever. I mean, think of it this way, like nobody knew how old the gas was. Nobody knew when it was on the road last. We just knew it was a big project and it was from Venezuela. So my friend attempted to get this car running. He dumped gas down the carburetors. It didn't sound terrible, but it sounded good enough. And now the buyer of this car, because of its extensive needs, feels that he has recourse to sue the seller on Bring a Trailer. Now, after looking at the ad, the seller made it very clear that it was a non-running project car with a major electrical problem. The buyer went ahead and bought the car anyway. But while you might think that the buyer does not have grounds for a lawsuit, an attorney did take his case, which means maybe there are grounds for a lawsuit. And so we're going to talk today about description versus presentation. Now, description is the written synopsis, in this case, of the vehicle's current condition, its needs, its status, whether it's a driving car, a project car, a car that runs but needs some work, whether it yard drives. The meat and potatoes, which I find a lot of people don't read. I'll send somebody a 40-page invoice, and if they read it, I had one customer recently that went through his invoice. I appreciate that, but the majority of them just don't. They don't even look at them. They just go, "Oh, okay, you sent me an invoice. Here's the bill. Thanks." But I really love it when customers actually read those invoices. Our average invoice is somewhere between like 30 and 50 pages, by the way. The typical person who buys a car and Bring a Trailer tends to look more at photos than at the actual description. And they may not even have a good technical understanding of what certain things in the description mean, meaning that they're relying on the photos to tell them the whole story. And the big legal question here is whether the presentation, how functional or mobile or usable the photos actually make the car look, could qualify as some form of counter description. Like, I say this car needs an engine, but in the photos, you can clearly see that the engine is intact, and maybe there's a video even of the engine running. Now, in this case, there weren't any videos of the car running, but it was photographed or photoshopped in a way where it actually looked like a complete usable functional car. In other words, the condition of the car was not clear or evident by the photos. Like the grave, serious, major, horrible needs of this car were not real obvious based on how the photos presented the car. And this is where I think that the seller of the car may have some issues. Now, there are a couple of really important legal questions here. The first one is this: is Bring a Trailer presenting the cars in a way where a project car actually looks like a functional car? These are questions for you to answer and think about. The second question, if you present a car a certain way in photos, but you make no claims about the condition or the fitness of the car, does it make the seller dishonest, or does it make the buyer an idiot, or a little of both? I find that a lot of sellers try to deceive people with presentation, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, but I see a lot of presentation on Bring a Trailer very much in the same way I see Instagrammers presenting their slam-bagged 108s as functional cars that would actually pass a TÜV inspection in Germany. You know, just saying, guys. I find that presentation is often a manipulation of the state of the car meant to maximize profit rather than ensure that the person buying the car has a real and complete grasp on its needs. Now, do I think that this lawsuit is a good thing or a bad thing? Well, I actually think it's a good thing because, first of all, Bring a Trailer needs to be more discerning about the kind of cars they sell. Number two, it could blow open some other information. And again, I'm not saying Bring a Trailer did any of this stuff. I'm just saying that it could expose some things. The first thing it could expose is whether or not Bring a Trailer is enhancing the presentation of certain cars on their website to get more money, like deleting photos or not featuring certain photos or photoshopping photos or editing photos to make the car look more favorable than it is. Nobody's going to want to buy a car from Venezuela if it looks like it just came out of the shipping container from Venezuela. But if you clean it up and make it look nice, you know, and you say, I don't want photos of this car as it arrived from the shipping container, you're manipulating the presentation of the car. The car is a barn find that has had mice living in it that sat for 30 years in a barn in Venezuela. Just because you polish the paint doesn't change its list of needs. But because people are visual creatures and they care more about what they can see, I think it's fair to say that visual presentation becomes the yardstick by which most vehicles are judged. They don't read receipts. They don't care. They don't look at the details. They look at the stuff that sort of gets them going. Now, I don't know if it really helps the seller in this case to lawyer up, because if a judge hears this case, he's probably going to say, you should have read the description, I'm throwing the case out. But if the case does move on beyond just like a simple hearing or arbitration or whatever, there's a very good chance that we'll learn some things about Bring a Trailer that are not real obvious. And I'm going to try to continue to get details of this as we go. In the meantime, please like, share, and subscribe for more information like this. And if you got hosed in a Bring a Trailer deal, feel free to email me at info@pierre-hedary-and-co.com, and Jesse will look at your email and put us in touch, because I'd love to hear more from people who have actually bought cars and Bring a Trailer that got a little bit, deceived. All right, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.